All right, hey CJ students, and welcome to Notes 2.2 Part 2. So here's another problem. This summer, Mr. Mason drove to Charleston, South Carolina, all the way down here with his friends. As you can see, it takes a long time. Here's Chicago, and here's the drive. It takes 13 hours and 58 minutes. So think about that. As a mixed number, that's 13 whole hours, and then 58 minutes, we can say is 58 out of 60. Now, let's obviously simplify that. So divide by... let's call it 2 first, and that's 13 divided by 2 is 29, right? Because 60 divided by 2 is 30, right? So as a mixed number, that's 13 and hours and 29 30ths of an hour, right? Mr. Mason could have flown. It would have taken him 2 hours, as you can see, the flight path, 2 hours. Obviously, it would cost a little bit more. But let's tack on 45 minutes for airport time. So it was taking him 2 hours and 45 minutes. So as a mixed number, that's 2 hours with my whole number, 45, how many minutes an hour out of 60? Let's simplify this. Now we can divide both these by 15. It gives us 2 hours and 3/4 of an hour as our mixed number. So how much longer does it take to drive than fly? Again, there's a key phrase there. We're really asking ourselves, all right, how much longer does it take to do this than this, right? If you had to estimate, right? Just looking at this, 13 minus about 2, all right, it's going to be about 11 hours, but this is really close to 14, so 14 minus 2, it's going to be around 12. Maybe if you had to estimate right off the bat, you might want to say around 12 hours, okay? And then you'll know whether or not your answer is reasonable if you get a number close to that. So basically, we're doing the subtraction of 13 and 29 30ths minus 2 and 3/4. So here's the deal. 30 and 4. What number do they have in common? It's going to be tough, but it's actually going to be 60. So we do times 2 here, times 2 here. We do times 15 here, times 15 here. And then we end up with kind of numbers that are the same here. Actually, we didn't really have to simplify these. We could have just kept those the same. So maybe I had to do some extra work. So it's 13 and 58 over 60, right? They had the same denominator initially, and 2 and 45 over 60. So when I subtract that, I get about 11, and then 58 minus 45 is around, it's 13 out of 60. So 11 hours and 13/60th of an hour longer to drive than to fly. Now, we said it's around 12. Are we around 12? We're a little bit off, but we're pretty close. We're in the ballpark, and that's what makes our answer kind of a valid answer. All right? Here's the last one. So this is an incline press, and Mr. Mason tried getting in shape this summer. It didn't work out. But by the end of the summer, he could bench press, so this is when this bench lies flat like this, right? 185.5 pounds. And could incline press, that's this right here, 135 7/8 pounds. How much weight could he lift altogether? So there's a different kind of phrase here. If I'm saying I want to know how much I can bench press and how much I can incline press, I want to put those weights together. Now, I can't do it at the same time, but I'm just saying over the summer, and if I did some reps of bench and then some reps of incline, like how much weight would I have lifted altogether? So that's figuring out we're adding. So 185 and 1/2 plus 135 and 7/8, right? So put your finger on the 2, put your finger on the 8, go across their common multiple, their least common multiple, 8. Multiply that by 4. So then we do 185 and 4/8 plus 135 and 7/8. When we add this up, 4 plus 7 is 11 over 8. And then here we have 10, carry the 1, that's 12, carry the 1, 320 and 11/8 pounds. But we're not done, because this right here is an improper fraction. I can get a whole nother pound out of it, right? It's improper. So how many times does 8 go into 11? It goes in there 1 with 3 left over, so 1 3/8. So this is an extra whole 3/8 that I can add to 320. So 320 plus 1 3/8 means I could have lifted by the end of the summer 321 pounds, 320 plus 1 3/8, right? It was impressive. Definitely can't do it anymore, but hopefully, who knows, maybe I'll get back in shape at one point. So that's it for today's notes. Here, you now have this puzzle that I'm about to pass out to you, where you're going to kind of work on it in partners for the rest of the time. It should be something that's very straightforward. basically when you see it in the bottom, you cross off the box. So we say times 4 here, times 4, that's 8 over 12, times 3, that's 3 over 12. Add those together, that's 11 over 12. So then you go down to the bottom and you find 11 over 12, which is right here, and you cross it off. And then the letters that are left over, you're going to put them in exact order into that box. That's the end of part 2.